the Aaron Rodgers thing has been interesting because you wrote the book on him, so you know him pretty well. And I don't think his football, he's fine. He's, somewhere between the 13th and 16th best quarterback. He's fine. I don't think he's quite as committed as the young great ones, and I don't think he moves like the young great ones. He's smart. But when Aaron Glenn came in, and for the second time in Aaron's career, he was caught off guard a little by a team saying, hey, thanks, but no thanks, according to reports that, Aaron had flown cross country, meeting with him, and Aaron Glenn was like, we're going to move on. And to me, downgraded at quarterback. I mean, when you write a book on Aaron, you think you have a feel or a vibe for him. I said this the other day. If the Vikings say no thanks, I think he retires. When you look at how the season went, and now we're in this flux period, are you surprised, or could you have predicted it based on the over 100 people you talked to in the conversation with Aaron?
I think I'm not surprised that I think the overriding feeling right now is that he still wants to play in maybe 2 years. I had a friend of his tell me 2 years a week ago, because he kind of feels like this past season, Colin, was a rehab year. And so if he has a good 2025, I really do expect him to try to play in 26. But will he even play at all? Retirement is on the table. I don't think the Vikings are going to sign him. That would be the best case scenario. But let's say you put the Vikings roster, or the Steelers and the Giants had an equivalent talent base as the Vikings. Same coaching, same talent. I actually think he picked the Giants because he does really like living in the New York, New Jersey area, despite the fact that the Jets thing was effectively a 2-year disaster. I do think if the Giants had a Vikings roster, I actually think he would pick the Giants. He has respect for that organization. They've had good conversations. I've talked to a couple of people with the Giants who said they have no issues with him as a locker room presence, as a personality. They don't care. They think he's the best available quarterback and they want him. They've made a good offer. If I had to put $20 down today, I think he'll be the starting quarterback for the Steelers, because I think he'd prefer the Vikings. But the Steelers, I think, really do want him. They've made that clear. And Mike Tomlin gives him the kind of coaching. Last year, Colin, I've been doing this almost 40 years in the New York market. That is one of the 2 or 3 worst coaching jobs I've ever seen in any sport in New York. And so to go from that to Mike Tomlin, if Mike Tomlin coached the 2024 Jets, they would have gone 10-7. I'm convinced of that. That was a 10-7 team that went 5-12 with horrific coaching. So I think with the Steelers and with the playmakers they have now, and that roster, and particularly the coaching, I think Aaron can go 10-7, maybe 11-6, and get back in the playoffs. And maybe that's the way to end his career. I think where the Giants are right now, because they don't have that roster that we were talking about earlier with the Vikings, he's looking at that saying, geez, do I want to finish my career going 5-12 for one New York team and 5-12 for another? Have you looked at the Giants' home schedule? Let me run these 8 games by you, and you tell me they're going to play 9 on the road next year and 8 at home. You tell me who the Giants are beating from this group. Dallas, okay, I think they can beat Dallas, but then they're playing at home: Philly, Washington, Green Bay, Kansas City, the Chargers, the Vikings, and the 49ers. How many of those games are they winning? Maybe 2, if they're lucky. They go 2-6 at home. Then on the road, they're at Dallas, they're at Philly, they're at Washington, they're at Denver, they're at Detroit. How many of those games are they winning? So I think Aaron is smart enough to look at that and say, do I really want to go 5-12, even if I play better? And even though I don't think the Jet thing is really going to hurt his legacy, I don't think 10, 15 years from now, when he's already in the Hall of Fame as a Packer, people are going to be talking about his experience with the Jets. But if he does that again with a second team, I do think that'll hurt his legacy. So to me, if the Vikings aren't interested and they're going with McCarthy pretty much right away, I think the Steelers make a lot of sense. I think Tomlin is a built-in insurance policy that it won't be a disaster. I think he should do that. I think he'll play better. I think he'll make the playoffs, and that's the way to go out.
Sorry to interrupt this great video, but please remember to like and subscribe. Thank you. Now back to the video. So I said this the other day on the show. Obviously I was in the Northeast for 10 and a half years, but one of the things I observed when I was in the city a lot or near it in Connecticut is that, there's a lot of Yankee and Met fans and a lot of Giant and Jet fans, but everybody in New York likes the Knicks. It's just every single friend I had in New York, and many of them, more than the Yankees or Giants, were Knick fans first. And again, I'm old enough to remember the Walt Frazier, Bill Bradley, Earl Monroe. Yeah, like I go back to the 70s when nobody won. The Lakers won a title, the Warriors did, the Washington Bullets did, the Sonics, the Blazers, the Knicks. And then there were the Pat Riley iterations. But I always said, God, if Dolan could get out of the way, this city loves its team so much. And I think when the Sphere got built for 2 years, Dolan removed himself from the facility. I mean, literally, physically, he was in Vegas so often. And it allowed the Knicks to really grow this really strong basketball group. And I think they've made very patient, very sharp moves. I don't think Cat is the future, but I think he was the right move at the right time. But there was a moment between Tibbs and Josh Hart the other day, and Mikal Bridges, it was public that he had gone to Tibbs, hey, we need to play the starters less. Young players don't get a lot of work and minutes under Tibbs. As great as the brief journey has been with Tom, it does feel like, does it not, Ian, to get to the next level, you need two moves. Karl Anthony Towns probably gets replaced with a better defensive big or just like a KD, a greater player, and Tibbs may not be the answer. Or is that me 3,000 miles away guessing?
No, I think it's possible that's the case. I do think Tibbs is good enough to win a championship as a head coach. They lose in the second round again this year. I don't think he'll get replaced because I think he'll lose to a better team. I think the Celtics are better. And surprisingly enough,
Yeah.
I did not think the Cavs would be better, but they are. They just are.
Yeah.
So if they lose in the second round to, say, the Celtics, do you fire the guy off that? You're losing to a better team. The Celtics have better players. The Knicks have improved their roster, certainly. And I didn't think Jalen Brunson, I wasn't sure if he'd be this or could be the second best player on a championship team when they acquired him. Now, I do think he could be one of the top two, if not the best player on a championship team. He's an incredible player. And I think a lot of people in New York were surprised by that. I think where the Knicks are right now is it's kind of funny because Jets fans have been complaining about Woody Johnson, the owner, for a long time. If Woody Johnson hires, and we'll find out if he did, the right general manager in Muji and the right head coach in Aaron Glenn, he's going to go away, and Jets fans will never talk about him. Knicks fans are not talking about Jim Dolan, and they haven't now for a number of years because he hired the right general manager, and that was a gamble. Leon Rose had never done this job. He was a very good agent. He had never been a general manager. And early on, I wasn't so sure, but turns out he knows what he's doing. And Tibbs, of course, everybody knew he knew what he was doing. He's proven that he could be a very valuable piece of the coaching staff that won a championship in Boston under Doc Rivers. And so is he, it's almost like Buck Showalter did all the dirty work in the on the Yankees in the mid 90s, and then he got replaced by Joe Torre, and Joe Torre then won 4 World Series. So I'm not saying that the next Knicks coach is going to win 4 titles in the next 5 years after that happens, but I think that he's going to get one more year after another second round exit. Maybe the Knicks will surprise us and win that second round matchup with, say, the Celtics. I don't think that will happen. But I do think you're right in terms of the roster. It looks like they're still, believe it or not, after all the moves they've made and 5 number 1 picks for Bridges, and then they made the Cat deal, and the Brunson deal was an incredible one. It still looks like they need to make one more move, and maybe Cat is a part of that package. But right now it's just they're in a tough way because of the Celtics being in their way, and now the Cavs have hurdled them, and they sure look like they're for real.
Yeah, I think the Hartenstein move, which I think they were kind of trapped. There's not much they could do. I thought he added some real toughness and rebounding that's very hard to replace. Cat is a more gifted offensive player, but he's not the toughest guy in the league, and he's a poor defender. Hartenstein had this sort of New York toughness, just a fighter on the glass, and it felt like he was just part. He almost felt like, he had that Villanova feel. He was just an overachiever and a fighter. And I think sometimes in the NBA, it's not what you want to do, it's what you have to do. And they let him go to OKC, and it doesn't quite feel like the same team.